everyone, and welcome to Not Just Numbers, Honest Conversations with a Financial Advisor and Lawyer. I am Madison Demora, and I am here with Mike Gary. Mike is a financial advisor and a CFP, and the founder and the CEO of Yardley Wealth Management. He is also an estate planning lawyer, and his law firm is Yardley Estate Planning. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Maddie, how are you today?
Great, great. How are you?
Good. So it looks like it's the nicest day of the year so far.
Yes, yes, I'm here for it. I am ready for summer for sure. All right, so today we are going to discuss an article from the Wall Street Journal, and it is titled Hidden Conflicts Arise with Fee-Based Advisors, and that is by Annie Tergeson. All right, so here is the summary. The article discusses a significant shift in how Americans pay for financial advice, with many individuals opting for fee-based advisors over commission-based ones. While this change has reduced certain conflicts of interest, such as pushing expensive financial products, it hasn't eliminated all conflicts. Fee-based advisors typically charge annual fees ranging from 0.75 to 1.25% of a investment portfolio, which can incentivize them to make recommendations that maximize the portfolio's balance, even if it's not in the client's best interests. For instance, some advisors may encourage clients to claim Social Security benefits earlier than optimal or retain mortgages in retirement. The article points to research that shows that individuals with fee-based advisors tend to claim Social Security benefits earlier than those without advisors, but later than those with commission-based advisors, suggesting that the difference is based on advice. Similarly, advisors may discourage clients from purchasing annuities which offer guaranteed income for life, potentially because it involves moving money out of investment accounts and may reduce the advisor's fees. While fee-based compensation is generally considered less prone to abuse than commissions, there are still concerns about conflicts of interest influencing advisors' recommendations. Critics argue that advisors may prioritize their own financial gain over the client's best interest, whether consciously or unconsciously. All right, so what do you think about that, Mike?
That's interesting. I think there's a lot. This was just in the paper over the weekend, and there is a lot to unpack in
Oh,
this.
yeah.
But there are so many different pieces here, and we'll try to get into them, and I will do my best to explain my thoughts.
Okay.
And like minimizing conflicts of interest is really important for the consumer, really in dealing with any kind of professional, but certainly with financial advisors.
Absolutely. All right, so let's start with question one. How has the shift towards fee-based financial advisors impacted the alignment of investors' interests with those managing their money? And what are some remaining conflicts of interest in this model?
Sure, I think it's impacted it a few different ways. First, in the last 25 years or so, there's been a giant shift towards independent advice. So 25 years ago, most advisors were brokers working for the big wirehouse firms, Morgan Stanley, Merrill Lynch, Smith Barney, Payne Weber, all those legacy brands. Now, they still have a lot of brokers or advisors working there, but many fewer, and a lot have gone independent, semi-independent, working with attaching themselves to an independent broker dealer, and others like us, we've gone to a registered investment advisor, wholly independent. We're owned by me and my wife, right? And so when you are not part of the sales force of a wirehouse firm where they make their own products and do all sorts of things, to compensate their advisors for selling their products, they try to minimize those conflicts. But if you are not selling what your employer wants you to sell, you're going to hear it from them, right? Like, as independent minded as an advisor at one of those places wants to be, they're going to face pressures from their employer. It's just the way that the world works. Another thing that is is different is when the management of accounts is based on a fee, right? And it's not based on transactions occurring throughout the year. The both the advisor and the client have a better idea of what that fee is going to be, right? So they have an idea of how much that advice is going to cost, right? And if you charge the same fee no matter what's in the account, it has you know where the incentives are aligned, right? So the incentive um, for an advisor who bases their pay on a fee is to manage more of your investments and to make the investments you manage for them go up so that the fee is higher. And the last one really is the rise of financial planning. So 25 years ago, a guy in my shoes, like my old boss, who had a registered investment advisory firm, considered himself a money manager, and he would do, if any, financial planning. He called it yellow pad financial planning. He would tell people, "Oh, pay off your mortgage, pay down that debt." He'd write some stuff down, and that was it. Well, we have to do a whole lot more financial planning now for clients. It's an ongoing part of our relationship with many, if not most, of our clients, right? We update planning when it's appropriate and really try to help them navigate their financial lives. It's not just about managing their accounts anymore. That has been a huge difference in that 25 years.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, can you discuss the findings regarding Social Security claiming behaviors among individuals with fee-based advisors compared to those without advisors or with commission-based advisors? And how might the fee structure influence these behaviors, and what are the implications for retirees?
Sure. So basically, what they said was that there was research out there that suggests that commission-based brokers clients claim Social Security earliest. Fee-based advisors charged clients claimed less, like a little bit later than them, but then people without advisors claimed last or latest. Um, and it really just said that, and then made the implication that maybe the advice is biasing people. Maybe the advisor is telling their clients to claim Social Security earlier. I think it could be an area where there's correlation, but no causation. What I just relayed is all they said about the research. Nothing about how it was done or how many people or the questions, how it was done. And so I think in this area, what the implication is if, say, I manage your account for you and you have the choice of whether to take Social Security or not. And if you take Social Security and you and your spouse have $50,000 a year in Social Security income, that's $50,000 a year that you don't have to take from your account. That means that your advisor makes more money from that, right? That's a clear conflict of interest for an advisor. I will tell you in practice, though, we suggest to all our clients to wait unless they have known health concerns, like they have some sort of illness that is going to reduce their projected longevity, right? If they have that, then yes, they should probably claim soon. But if not, we ask them to wait. And a lot of them will wait. A lot of them are on board with it. And a lot of them won't. Like, especially people that retire at 60, the thought of waiting 10 years to collect Social Security, they have a hard time with it. I would I would suggest that you poll our clients where we've had these conversations about whether they should claim Social Security, where they think we stand on it. Because I would say over and over again, we plead with people to wait, and then ultimately they're going to do it when they want to do it. And so again, they have that research that suggests that they make a suggestion from, but there's no kind of proof in that. There's no real correlation.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real causation. There's just a correlation.
Yep.
It's always interesting. I would say that I would doubt that we are alone, right? Like
Yep.
Maureen just started working here 5 months ago, and she has the same conversations I do with people.
Yep.
We talk to them about waiting. We show people in in the financial planning software what the difference makes, and sometimes it makes a giant difference in whether somebody's plan works or not. That they delay, but I think that part of it is people have a hard time with it because they can't leave Social Security to their spouses or their children, but they can leave their accounts, right? And that I think that a lot of times they feel like it's one versus the other instead of the way that we look at it is it's part of your overall financial picture. Claiming Social Security and the strategies around that, and your different accounts, whether they're taxable brokerage accounts, IRAs, Roth IRAs, and they all work together, right? And the idea is to come up with a plan to maximize the how much money you're going to be able to use, spend, give through your lifetime. And claiming Social Security later is almost always the right idea, but we can't make people do it. We will keep trying, though.
All right. So, why do some advisors advocate for retaining more mortgages into retirement, and what are the potential conflicts of interest associated with this recommendation? And how might this strategy impact retirees' financial well-being?
Sure. Right. So here's another case where there's a conflict of interest for an advisor. Say a client has $200,000 left on their mortgage and they just want to pay it off so they don't have any debt going into retirement. If they pay it off by taking $200,000 out of their investment accounts that we manage, well, maybe that's a $2,000 a year reduction in our fee minus whatever that would grow to, right? So you can see where there's a clear conflict of interest. Again, I think it depends. Now, more people are carrying mortgages into retirement, and I think that's for a couple of reasons. People are buying houses later, then probably buying their second houses later too. Um, and I think that, you know, 2 generations ago or a generation ago, people had much more modest homes, much more modest mortgages, and less investment money, right? And so they wanted to not have that bill hanging over their head into retirement. Now, people have more. I mean, the people that we manage accounts for have more money than like their parents did for the most part. And one thing to consider is that, again, it's all part of the overall plan or process. People who've gotten mortgages in the last 15 years, other than the last year or two, generally have really good mortgage rates. My mortgage rate on a 15-year mortgage is 2 3/8%, right? At the same credit union, our high yield account yields 4%. Why would I take money out of my 4% account out to pay off my 2 3/8% mortgage? That would make no sense. That would just be silly, right? So when people come into retirement now, the ones who did some planning and were thoughtful a few years ago and refinanced their mortgages, if their mortgage is 3% or 4% and they have to take money out of their account and pay capital gains taxes to pay it off, or out of their IRA and pay regular income tax. I mean, I've been doing this a long time and you have to run the numbers. If you have a mortgage that's costing you 4% a year and it's $200,000, would you take $300,000 out of your IRA, have $100,000 of income tax withheld, and pay the $200,000? Is paying off that mortgage really worth $100,000 in taxes? It is
Probably
not.
not. Yeah,
It is
probably
not.
not.
It is different than when I started in this business and people had 8 or 10% mortgages, right? Tax rates were higher then too, so you still make the same calculation, but would make a lot more sense to pay off an 8 or 10% mortgage than it does a 2 or 3 or 4% mortgage. Now, in situations where you want to get rid of the payment, maybe it makes sense to take a little bit more out each year to make more payments towards it. The other part of this also is a lot of times when people are coming into retirement, they're down to like the last little bits of what they owe in the mortgage, and it's almost all principal that they'll be returning. So they're not going to save themselves a lot of interest. They might save themselves a payment. But if you're down to your last $50,000 of mortgage and you're going to wind up paying $2,000 or $3,000 of interest on that over the next 2 or 3 years, it really doesn't seem to make sense to take something out and pay 10, 20, $30,000 in taxes to pay that off, right? It just doesn't make sense. Well, all things being equal, it would be better to not have a mortgage in retirement. All things are never equal. You need to look at your situation, understand that there's a conflict of interest, and make the decision that's right for you. If you're talking to your advisor about this, have them spell out what the anticipated taxes would be for taking money out of your account so you can make the decision that how much interest it would be over the years remaining on the mortgage versus how much you'd pay in taxes to take the money out, and then make a good faith decision, make the best decision you can. Really, I mean, because that's what we do is we empower people, give them the information so they can make the right decisions to take charge of their lives.
Yep, absolutely. All right. So, analyzing the reluctance of fee-based advisors to recommend annuities despite their potential benefits, such as mitigating the risk of running out of money in old age, how do conflicts of interest, particularly related to fees, influence advisors' recommendations in this context?
Sure. So first, I want to make sure people are clear here and understand this. Um, when they're talking about annuities, they're talking about like a fixed annuity where you put a certain amount of money in and then you're going to get a certain amount back every month for as long as you live. And economists like these products because it gives some certainty towards the future and it provides some longevity risk, right? So if you wind up living to 110, it will pay out that whole time. Clients don't buy those types of annuities because they hate them. And the reason they hate them is they hate the thought that they'll put like $100,000 or $1 million in an account, and then 2 weeks later they get hit by a bus, and the insurance company just keeps all that money, right? So there's been a disconnect between what economists think and what consumers think for a long time, right? Um, and so we don't. I think there is like academic research to suggest that having a small portion in a fixed rate annuity like that does help in cases where people are concerned about outliving their money. We don't have most of those people as clients, right? And so that's not something that we would have. Like most of our clients aren't concerned about running out of money. Most of the time. Everybody gets like a little flight of panic here or there, like, oh, is it going to be enough? But for the most part, when we do plans with people, they're in pretty good shape. I think the diff is not the advisor's unwillingness to take the money out, is that the clients just don't like that deal. And I get it. And there are products where the client can be assured of if they die in the first 5 or 10 years, then somebody else will get some part of it. But then that reduces the overall effectiveness, according to the economists. But yeah, clients don't want to do that, and I don't blame them. There's also the thought that, in my opinion, um, the overwhelming evidence of stock and bond and fixed annuity and fixed investments is that over the 120 years that we have great data for, or the 225 years that we have good data for, investing in stocks primarily just works. It stinks sometimes when the markets are down. It makes people nervous or rattled sometimes. But over the long scope of history, investment in companies and capitalism, it just works, and putting that money into that fixed product might make an economist feel better, But for the most part, for that couple percent of times that it helps somebody on the margins out, the people who aren't on the margins are going to do way better not buying that product. And they're going to leave something to their kids and grandkids, or their charities or their church or wherever they want to leave stuff.
Yep. All
How's
right.
that for a long-winded
It was
answer?
perfect. It was very well said. Very well said. So, Mike, can you explore the reasons behind the increase in the percentage of older households holding mortgages into retirement? And how might this trend affect retirees' financial security? And what role do financial advisors play in shaping this decision?
Yeah, I think that the biggest part of this is that we had 15 years of really low rates. And so people coming into retirement now have mortgages that cost them 2, 3, 4% a year. They don't see the need to pay that off, and they don't see the need to pay huge amounts of taxes to take money out of investments to pay that off. Sometimes they will take it out of savings, but like I just said a few questions ago, I'm not going to move money from my high yield savings to pay off the interest, pay off a loan that's cost me 2% less than what I'm getting. So I don't think that that is primarily an advisor-led difference. I think it's mostly interest rates that people have. Um, yeah, it just
Yeah.
doesn't make sense.
Okay. What steps can regulators, industry organizations, and consumers take to mitigate these conflicts and ensure that advisors prioritize clients' financial well-being?
Yeah, well, I think that consumers should go to advisors who are fiduciaries to them, and that they should demand that the advisor they work with will act as a fiduciary. When look, stuff gets passed by Congress or the Department of Labor, and different bills come along, and they're always squashed. Um, Tell your congressperson, yeah, you want your advisor to be held as a fiduciary to you. Put your interests first. There are 10 or 15,000 of us who do that voluntarily. And I think that most advisors at the wirehouses and the independent broker dealers would want to do that too. Um, their business structure doesn't allow it, and it leaves the client out there kind of in the lurch. And so, yeah, demand it. Ask your advisor if they'll act as a fiduciary. Ask them to put it in writing, and guarantee that they'll put your interests first. And so if you can't do that, when making these different decisions, know what the conflicts are, and then ask them to spell out what the conflicts are and what the differences are. And when we're talking to you about your plan, like what difference does it make by waiting Social Security or claiming it now? How will that affect my plan? What does it cost? How does it affect my plan if I pay off my mortgage now or hold it into retirement? Like I think a lot of times in the press, they think of the mortgage as the cash flow part, needing the money each month. But there are consequences of paying it off. And does it make sense? It really depends on the situation.
Yeah.
So I think the best thing really is to get all the information you can get, make an informed decision.
Yeah. All right. Very well said. All right. Thanks so much, Mike. I hope this is helpful for some people. Is there anything else you wanted to add?
I do want to say, they threw around the term fee-based, and I think that, the public should know that there is a difference between a fee-based and a fee-only advisor. A fee-based advisor is one who will make money for selling, who will manage your accounts for a fee, but will also still sell products like life insurance and annuities for a commission. A fee-only advisor will manage your account for a fee and do the financial planning involved in that, but doesn't sell products. Would recommend you to other people for financial products. And I think that's a giant distinction in the marketplace that was not, I don't think, mentioned at all in the article. So
Yeah.
thanks for that last little bit.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see how that could get confusing to some people. I mean, fee based and fee only kind of. I could see how they could get paired together.
Yep. Yeah, it's
Oh,
confusing. It's
yeah.
intentionally confusing.
Yes. Thanks for clarifying that.
You got it.
All right. We are joined here today with Amy Patterson. Amy is a realtor at Remax here in Newtown. Amy, would you like to explain to our listeners what you do for a living and a little background about yourself?
Sure. I would say I started in real estate in 2005. I tested for my New Jersey license first, and then I went to getting my Pennsylvania license because at that time somebody tipped me off that if you did the New Jersey first, you wouldn't have to take the general section again when you took for the PA. So the PA in New Jersey laws is a different section. So I started in that. Basically, my youngest daughter was going into first grade, and I have 4 kids at that time, and I just wanted to start something new. I was involved at the school heavily in the PTO. Started in the lower ranks there, went up to president, and really just liked working with people, and had a good kind of rapport with working in that situation with the staff, with the parents. And I just decided I would give real estate a try. And it really took off sort of organically, I would say, because I've lived in this area for a long time. It has allowed me to meet a lot of new people, stay in touch with a lot of people that I know. And the whole real estate industry has an interesting consumer perception.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the real estate industry really fulfills a personal part of me that keeps me going. I like to help people get from point A to point B with as little agony as possible and with as much reward, being physical, emotional, financial, whatever that is. And often it's all three of those things. It's one of those things. It's two of those things. But just having the ability to help somebody get to that next, chapter of their life is very fulfilling for me.
Amy, could you expand a little bit on that interesting consumer perception idea?
Sure. Let's just say this. When I got into real estate, and I really got into it as most realtors do, oh, I love people and I love houses. Well, that's really not what real estate is. Of course, you have to have a good rapport with people. The house is the product. The house is what you're trying to match up with somebody. However, when getting into real estate, I realized that the industry itself really has a bad rap all the way around. It's sort of kind of in line, and I don't know if anybody on this podcast is a used car salesman, but it's sort of like that old, cliche that people used to use for that,
Right.
for that job, which really that's a sales job as well. So people looked at realtors and they still do, in a kind of a jaded way, and sort of, oh, they're just out for themselves. But it's led consumers to kind of tarnish what is a service-driven industry.
Yeah. Also, as a financial advisor and lawyer, I could totally understand.
Yeah.
No doubt you can, Mike.
So,
No
you
doubt.
do great work for people who appreciate it. But in the public eye, you're just, either selling something or looking out for yourself.
Exactly.
And
People just think you're taking things and stuffing it in your pockets, and they don't realize how hard you are working behind the scenes with their best intention.
right.
Absolutely.
The invisibleness that you do, that the people don't realize, and they're creating their own kind of story in their head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that kind of leads me into the second question. So, what are some common misconceptions people have about working with a realtor?
Well, sort of, saying some of the things that we did, that, it's very self-driven. that people are just trying to get somebody into a house and get them under contract. And, you know, the first thing is you can't sell a house to somebody. I learned that early on. You need to listen to them. You need to get them the information that they need. You need to get them into the house and then just watch them. You can't walk through the house, you know, like Vanna White, showing them the house and trying to like get them to love the house. You'll know within the first 8 minutes whether they're interested. And nowadays it's even less than that. So people seem to think that you're just out running around trying to nail people down on a contract. And in theory, technically, are you? Yes, because you don't get paid any other way.
Right.
And without a contract, without something getting to settlement, all you're doing is running around. And there's a lot of realtors that just, you know, they do spin their wheels and they don't, you know, they don't actually get a lot of transactions to the table. That's the tricky part is really getting the parties to a meeting of the minds that everybody can live with, buyer, seller, listing agent, buying agent, and all of the you know, the details that come along with that, calmly and in a satisfied mannerism. It's tricky because people are emotional.
Sure, I bet. And it's a big purchase and a big sale, right?
Sure is. It's usually the biggest purchase of somebody's life. I mean, there aren't too many bigger purchases than that. If you're buying something bigger than that, then you've got a lot of money.
Right.
Maybe a yacht or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
Right.
So, Amy, what are current trends you're seeing in the real estate market?
Well, no one in the industry can figure out where all this cash has come from. More than 30% of the transactions last year were cash. That is a crazy stat.
Really?
We used to, you know, for close to 20 years, you were looking for a buyer that had 20% down. And if you had a buyer that had 20% down, you were solid. You knew you were going to get to the table. You knew it was going to happen. Since COVID, which that's a whole nother podcast, quite frankly.
Right.
Somehow people have found money and realized that the way to win is to either use cash, liquidate something that you have, or show cash. And that is something that I think is going to be sticking around for a while, especially since the interest rates are where they are. The people that have cash are not going to finance at 7.25 or whatever it is. They're just not going to. It's just not a good business decision for somebody who's very financially savvy. They'd rather pay cash and, you know, figure something out on down the road with balancing their portfolio.
I have a great question for you though. Like, where are all these people with all this cash? I mean, how are there so
It's
many?
your next door neighbor that you don't know about. It's the guy
Yeah.
down the street. It's the person at the grocery store that you're passing judgment on, thinking they don't have any money. It's everywhere. It's sort of it's surprising.
Yeah.
When you meet somebody and they say that they're a cash buyer. Now, you know, in this particular area that we're fortunate enough to live in, there are many savvy dual income people who do have, you know, they worked hard. You know, the baby boomers, that's what they did. They worked hard, they saved money, they were a little bit more frugal than, you know, some of the next generations to come. Didn't have all the things that they would spend disposable income on. So they are more liquid. So a lot of those buyers are scaling down. Let's say they're coming out of a, you know, 5,000 square foot house and they're looking for something, let's say in Lower Makefield, that's, you know, 2,800 because they're ready to scale down. They're more than happy and willing and capable to show their portfolio. They might not at the end of the day. Now, during COVID, people were showing their portfolio, and they're still doing this now, quite frankly, to win the offer. And then as soon as you go under contract, you would actually apply for a loan. So you can get that loan and come to the table and do a finance transaction. If you couldn't get the loan for some reason, you're under contract to pay cash. So you'd have to explain that risk to some folks who are willing to do that.
Sure.
Some have the stomach to do it, some don't have the stomach to do it, depending on their job and so forth, because
Right.
during COVID, there were a lot of jobs that were kind of under the gun, and people were losing hours and they were being let go, and jobs were vulnerable. And quite frankly, they still are. So
Sure.
you do have to look at, when you're looking at offers, you do have to look at the buyer's, their employment. And if they are in an industry that, is kind of stable, and quite frankly, the lenders always call a couple days prior to settlement to make sure they're not doing any layoffs and so forth. However, I worked with somebody recently who, they inherited a bunch of money on, in an unfortunate situation. They didn't intend to spend this money on purchasing a house. However, they thought it was the right thing to do to just get themselves a place with their young family, and then they can refinance, figure it out, kick some money back into, investing somewhere. Maybe I can have a client for you. Who knows, Mike?
There you
Um,
go. Good thinking, Amy.
always trying. So it's interesting. There's a lot of people out there, of course, people coming from New York as well.
Mhm.
And, not to say all people from New York have cash, but people are just willing to throw it out there.
Yeah.
Can you share any memorable or challenging experience you've had while helping clients buy or sell a property?
Hmm.
No, it's just been easy for 19 years.
Yeah, it's been a piece of cake, no problem at all. Well, when I started in the industry, it was kind of like the market we have right now. However, nothing's like the market we have right now.
Right.
It was it was a seller's market. A couple of years later, I got the reality of the roller coaster of real estate when 2008 hit, 2009 came, which, 2011, all those years that were financially difficult. Probably, one story that sticks out is a friend of mine who lived in his house for a long time. He had refinanced a number of things to help his kids get through some situations and through college and so forth. And his timing in real estate just didn't pan out. He bought at a good time. However, he had to sell at a bad time. And he had taken out, and this is when, you could pretty much get a home equity line by just fogging a mirror. They'd give you anything, and people were spending it not quite on your home, doing other things and so forth. And if you had to sell with all that debt, you have to sell at a short sale. So I had to discuss that with this friend of mine, and at the end of the day, what he decided to do was to just bring $55,000 of cash to the table, to not sell short, to have his credit not banged up, and to relocate, because he was relocating his job, and he didn't want it to follow him for a couple of years. And that was an emotional situation. He had suffered some loss during this transaction. It was very emotional. It was very difficult. And that was not what most people expect to do when you sell a house, is to bring cash to the table.
Right.
Nobody
Yeah.
expects that. And that did happen quite a bit during that time, from 2008 to 11, even into 12. There were a lot of times that people did have to actually buck up to get rid of their property and move to
Wow.
a different place, which is, those stories are, you don't even you forget that they happen because of the market that we're in right now.
Right.
You know, on the flip side of that, I just helped a friend of mine sell in Newtown, and we ended up getting $225,000 over asking.
Wow.
And we constructed it in a way that he was able to close, stay in the house, in his house, rent free until his daughter graduates high school, and then they're going to move on. That's how willing that buyer was to get that property. And
Wow.
there were multiple people in that same scenario willing to do that.
Wow.
And that is a common trend right now, where buyers are doing anything they can when they call you. If I have a listing and a buyer's agent calls me and says, oh my gosh, we'd love the property. What can we do? What can we do? What will set us apart from others? So it used to be, you know, during COVID, it was like, okay, waive inspections. Then it was, okay, bring cash, waive inspections. Now it's bring cash, waive inspections. Close, let the seller stay in the house for a couple months, give them the money so that then they can move on to their next house, or just let them stay there so they can say goodbye to their friends and they can, you know, their kids can finish out school. It's a straight up lay down for, you know, the seller can pretty much say what they desire, and most likely somebody will give it to them.
Wow.
Now I'm just
Wow.
waiting, because the pendulum always swings. So
Right.
the pendulum will swing, and I'm not sure if it's started back down, but it's coming. It always does.
Yeah.
Right. People always forget that. So recency bias is something that they talk a lot about in the stock market, but in real life too. Somehow, like, our brains get tricked into thinking like how things currently are is how things like are always going to be,
Right.
and forget that, you know,
Right.
you had 2005, which is when we bought our house. It was a difficult time, not like now, but
Right.
the house we're in is the 6th house we put an offer on.
Right.
And, you know, like, in a couple of weeks, and we, you know, knew I was going to be leaving my employer to start this, and just couldn't bid, and it was hard. But you know how you said it went to 2008, and you know, a couple of years, and how it's been like, it changes, things change, and we don't know what will precipitate that, like, or
No.
why,
Right.
but it will change. It won't always be like this. It
No.
just seems so crazy to me. Like, even the waiving inspection, like, you're making this giant purchase.
Yeah.
And looking back on it now, like, I used the home inspector that one of the realtors had recommended, and it's like, I didn't know that person at all, and it
Right.
worked out fine.
Mhm.
But you know, like, it's such a big thing, and I think the time I looked at it as a nuisance, oh, we got to pay a couple $100 for somebody to look at the house.
Right.
But in
Sure.
reality, like, it's one of the most important contractors you hire. Like,
Without a
hey,
doubt.
how is this house actually? You know, like, it's important stuff.
What's the
But
health of this house? So
right,
the folks that waive, and I tell them, listen, I don't agree with what's going on in this industry at all. However, to compete,
Yeah.
these are the trends.
yeah,
So if they choose to waive, I encourage them to set up the day of or the day after to set up their own home inspection. And I said, then at least you'll know at that moment the things that you need to address right away, especially with
right,
people moving in with young children or something. You know,
right,
you want to address. And I said, and be prepared. You're going to spend thousands of dollars. I go,
yeah,
first off, it's never going to stop. You're going to be at Home Depot for the next couple years
yeah,
straight. It's just the way it goes
right,
when you buy a house. Doesn't matter if it's brand new construction. It's the same way. You know, it's a big outlay of money up front to get it to your standards of living, whatever that house is.
Yeah.
right,
So
Right.
that people are doing that, and luckily, knock on wood, nothing has, you know, nothing has been that traumatic yet. And we have done this on homes that have septic and well, which is really risky, because I
right,
said, listen, at the end of the day, if the septic has to be replaced, you're talking the Board of Health, you're talking, it could take 6 months before you get a working septic system. You know, it's a process. So knock on wood, like I said, haven't had anything
Yep.
crazy yet.
Yeah. So Amy, what advice would you have for first-time home buyers?
Well, be patient.
Yeah.
Save as much as you can. Get out there, go to as many open houses as you can. If you're working with me, of course, tell them that you're working with me, because when you go into open houses, people don't understand, especially in and just as a segue, as a new construction. When you go into new construction, if you don't say that you're working with a realtor, then they will not allow you to bring a realtor in. And I have a friend that's going through this right now, and he's so upset that he's not represented by me, that he's only being represented by the listing agent who really represents the product, the house, the
Right.
development.
Right.
So with first-time home buyers, you know, I just have to say, and it's so bad, but I tell people, I'm like, all right, we'll write this offer. Just prepare yourself now to lose. We're going to lose. But I'm going to write this up. We're going to give it our best. I'm going to present it in a great fashion, but I'm just going to tell you that most likely we're going to lose. I just kind of preface it this way so that they're not calling and thinking all weekend that they have a chance. And then I said, and then by maybe with the grace of God, we'll get fortunate and maybe we'll be in the top 3. Maybe we'll get a chance. I said, but when you're going in as a first-time home buyer, generally first-time home buyers don't have cash. Generally, first home buyers don't have 20% down.
Right.
Those unfortunate situations kind of push your offer down. However, I have had successes in the past. I just had a couple cute couples that I got into a few homes, one in Levittown, one in Bristol, and they're thrilled. They are absolutely, and we did home inspections. So there are pockets of areas where these things are still happening. We did write a few, we did lose a few, and I kept saying, just keep swinging. You know, Bryce Harper doesn't hit a home run every time he gets up to bat. So you do have to keep swinging. He does strike out. I've seen it a couple of times this season so far, but boy, when he hits the ball, he hits it well. So you just have to be patient, know that it is it's a game of strategy, and it's a game of times at bat, really.
Absolutely. How do you stay informed about local market conditions and changes in regulations?
Well, we do have a couple groups at our office so that we get together. We have a top producers meeting once a month. There's a handful of us that get together, go over anything that has changed. We also talk about things that we're experiencing in our own business while we're writing transactions or fielding calls or representing clients, so that other people can share some other experiences that might pertain or might come up and might be something that, they can utilize. Those things are more tactical. So you learn, when you pass your real estate exam, that's great. It has nothing to do with how the business works. It's really once you get in and learning all that, it's just like any other job, you get in. It's not until you have time on the task, you learn how things actually work behind the scenes. So talking with a lot of local agents is something that a lot of us, especially the agents around here that have been in business, and there's agents around here that I love and adore that have been doing the business for 40 years. They know the business. I love going to the people that have that much more experience than I do and asking their advice on things. We also share a lot of information through our MLS. The MLS system always brings topics to us. We also are required to do continuing education. So it's actually Pennsylvania 1 year, New Jersey another year. It's every 2 years you have to do continuing education. And I have till the end of May to get it done. So of course I've paid for my classes a couple weeks ago thinking, oh, I'll have a couple slow days this week to get it done. Haven't opened them up yet, but I'll get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're still in New Jersey too? You still sell in New Jersey?
Yes, yes. And it's because the river's right there. There's so many people that come this way.
True.
And there
Mhm.
are times I just helped a young couple buy and board in town because really the houses are a little less expensive. Taxes are a little higher.
Yep.
But there's a lot of opportunity right over the river to help people if that's where they want to be. As well as the shore points. I've helped a lot of people buy places at the shore.
Sure.
I mean, I can go anywhere in New Jersey, anywhere in Pennsylvania. However, I won't go to places that I'm unfamiliar with because I don't feel as though I'm representing my client properly. I will try to find them a referral. We have, so many people in network. I'll try and match somebody up if it's in an area that I'm not comfortable with. But yeah, we just kind of, if you share a lot of information, I'm sure, Mike, it's the same situation in your industry, just talking
Sure.
to colleagues and people that you can bounce ideas off of and for the common good of the industry, you just want everybody to do well and succeed and make it a more reputable
Yes.
industry than it is.
Yes. After 25 years, I'm still like trying, hoping that this will become like actually a real profession and not
Not one of those kinds. Oh,
not
you're
one of those kinds.
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, we like for us, I go to a handful of conferences each year, talk with people, really try to figure out like what best practices are, both like for clients and then for like running the business.
Right.
Because there's so many things involved. And there's a lot of smart people out there that are willing to share great ideas.
Absolutely.
And so, it's really helpful. You really can figure stuff out.
Yeah. We do have a annual convention. This year I didn't go because I had some knee surgery and I don't think walking around Vegas is really a good idea. Just the Mandalay Bay alone is enough to be daunting when you have a little bit of a knee issue.
Right.
But
For people who haven't gone to Vegas, it's not like you need to be mobile.
You need to be, yes.
Everything is giant.
Good
and
shoes
so
and good mobility. And
Yeah.
you're set. And
Even
a
if
little bit of self-control. Let's not forget.
Yes.
Or maybe a lot of it of self-control.
Maybe a lot of self-control. Yeah, because you'll say, oh, it's only the second building down, but that's a mile and a quarter, right? Because the buildings are so big and
Exactly.
and you can only cross at the corners.
Right.
So yeah, it's
daunting for sure.
Yes.
But it is interesting. I like to go out there and then I like to go to some of the other places like Hoover Dam, which is spectacular, of course, just some of the sites to get you out of the glitz.
Yes, no, that's a good idea.
Have that. And we also do there's a big convention in Atlantic City every year called Triple Play. That also offers a lot of education. Of course, when I go there, I'm the nerd that goes to the classes where most of the people just go for the nighttime icebreaker cocktail events. I'm the one they're like, you're going to the daytime thing? I'm like, I like it. We paid for these classes. I think it's a good idea to go to them.
Right.
So there's lots of different ways to, keep yourself involved if you want to and relevant on top of, some of the evolving topics of the industry.
Yeah. Yeah. And even talking about all that, it sounds like there's a little bit of like self-discipline because I mean, you have to encourage yourself to go to those classes. Like you in your own way, you kind of are your own boss. So it's like you want to push yourself to go to those classes and everything. So yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
I could see how people could struggle with that.
Yes.
Yeah, it costs money and takes time and
there's no one there telling you go here, you go there. It's totally up to you.
You're right. That's the biggest misconception. One of the biggest misconceptions, I should say. When new agents come in, they come into the office and they're like, okay, well, where are the leads? Where are the leads? And and it's like, nobody Nobody gives you leads. This isn't that. Nobody
Yeah.
sits down and hands you like 5 names on a paper and tells you to
Yeah.
go. You have to figure it out.
Yeah.
And nobody cares if you show up at the office. And nobody cares if you get out of bed. Like, you literally have to be driven enough and disciplined enough so that when you get your first paycheck, which, by the way, is not 2.5% coming to you, that's going to the broker, you're getting your
Right.
percentage, and then you have to save a third of that for taxes, and then the other third of that probably goes to some of your marketing and your education and all the other expenses. So at the end of the day, you make a third of that possible percentage to bank. You better make sure that you have some financial discipline, which is why there is such a big turnover in real estate. A lot of people get into it thinking it's just that, they see the realtor driving the Mercedes. They think everybody drives a Mercedes. I don't drive a Mercedes. I would love to drive a Mercedes, but I don't. It's just not that, it's not that simple. It's not that easy. And it's very easy to quit.
Yeah, absolutely.
But than it is to pursue.
Can you share any success stories of clients who achieved their real estate goals with your assistance?
Well, I'm going through one right now, which is really sweet. I've known these people a long time. They live in Yardley. And when I met with them a couple weeks ago, well, probably a couple months ago now, they were debating about what to do because they've lived here forever. However, their boys have moved away. One's in Manhattan and one is Rochester, New York. And the one in Rochester had a baby, so they had their first grandson, and they were debating about what to do. And they said, maybe we should just go up there and spend time, but we're thinking maybe we should sell and move up there and find a ranch house because they're probably in their late 60s. They're like, we know, the time frame that we're going into, how do we go about this? So once they had made the decision, okay, we want to do this, we want to spend, plus their son is now, not their son, but their son's wife is now expecting again. So they'll have their second grand boy on the way. And we just sat down and we've sort of mapped out a good plan. They got contacted with a realtor up there, found a house. They now, once they went up there and they wrote 3 offers and lost. And I kept saying to them, it might be in your best interest for us to sell this house first. Then you can be a cash buyer. Because now you see they're going up. I mean, who knew in this little town up in just in Rochester that those houses are going for 40, 60, 80 over asking. I mean, we just think it's this little sweet pocket of life that we happen to live in. However, apparently there's lots of sweet pockets of life to live in, and people are really grasping for those products. So after they lost on their third, they came home, they said, you're right, we need to do it. We need to do it. We've lost out on a couple, one right down the street from them. So we put their house up. They were very nervous. And they didn't think that they would get the number that I said. I said, listen, I think this is, from comps that I see, this is attainable. It's not super aggressive, I said, but it's attainable. I said, and it's a good starting point. It's a launching point for to see who wants it the most. It ended up going 64 or 5, something like that, over asking.
Wow.
We will settle, and they will be cash buyers, and they are under contract on a place. So
Great.
they are thrilled that, they had an idea of what they wanted to do. They just didn't know how to do it. And they honestly, didn't believe and that it could happen. And they have said, we we trusted in you because you kept saying it's going to work out. You just have to take that first step. Trust me, I would never do anything. I've known them for so long. I would never do anything to harm you in any way. And they knew that, but it's hard to, in such a,
Sure.
vulnerable situation, to have somebody sink their faith into you and your process. And now their time's ticking away and they're getting closer to moving from here. And they had text last night and said, oh, we're doing our rounds, our final farewell tour at the
Yeah.
Rolling Stones. And, they're trying to make it all happen, but they're thrilled.
Yeah.
And
What a process.
it's a process.
Yeah.
And to me, even though, they keep saying, you're going to come up to Rochester, Paul and I very well may do that. Just knowing that it's probably not the back 9, it's probably like the back 5 holes for them of their lives will be spent with their son and their grandchildren in a wonderful environment. That's super satisfying.
Absolutely.
That's fine for me. And that
Absolutely.
I rest on that. The things that I'll tell you, probably for me, the biggest, not downfall, but letdown, I should say, is when you're working with somebody, you're working so fast and furiously, and you're texting at all hours of the day, random irrational thoughts, and you're calming them down and you're calling them and you're going through everything, and it's so intimate. And then after settlement, I always hug them and I'm like, don't forget to text me any weird thought at any time of the day, because you kind of break up. It's
Yeah.
you push them out of the nest and you're like, goodbye.
Yeah.
See you
Yeah.
See you soon.
Yeah. You go from texting, like you said, all day, every day to
Very
just
intimate, which I love
crickets.
that. I love that, that it's very satisfying to be so intimately close with somebody. And then it's kind of
it's almost bittersweet.
It is. It is.
What do you love most about being a realtor, and what keeps you motivated in this industry?
Well, I think the story I just told with my emotions probably fill that. I think, like I said, getting somebody from A to B with the most satisfaction and ease that you can gets me up, knowing that there are people there that are counting on you, and that you have the ability to do it. From a physical standpoint, emotional, all the support, pillars that you need to be able to get people moving in that direction, is really the most fulfilling thing that I can do. And I think to keep me moving, I got into the business really because I wanted to have a career for myself, but I also wanted to show my kids that anything is possible. I didn't get into this industry till I was 42. It has been a fabulous career. And when I started at 42, I thought it was too late. People that I've known have been doing it for 20 years already. People I knew got out of high school and were doing it. And I thought, oh, I don't stand a chance. And I think if you're driven enough and you want to make something for yourself and it's kind of proving it to yourself, but also proving it to my kids, like, you can do anything at any time of your life. If you want to change, if you want it bad enough, you can make it happen. And being that you want to start a new career at 30, 40, 50, if you want it, go for it.
Yeah.
Because it's all up to you, really, to get it done. So I think that was probably my biggest drive at that time. I wanted my boys and my girls to see that I could balance being a mom. However, they will tell me that I was always the last one to pick them up at the soccer fields or the ice rink or wherever, the lacrosse field. the golf matches, whatever. I was always the last one there, but I was there.
Yep.
It's always about queen of the multitasking. So
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey,
Oh,
Amy, I heard you might be bringing the scholarship foundation. You might be making that
Oh,
more
yes.
active again.
Thanks for asking, Mike. I was contacted earlier in this year by Wes Emmy, who's the men's basketball coach at the moment. Frank Ciola is the female coach. And I've known Frank has been involved. He was involved in what was called the RCBM, the Rick and Chris Block Memorial. We started that originally when Rick died he died in 94. And then Chris, and he died in a plane crash, unfortunately. Tragic, total family heartbreak, of course. And then unfortunately, Chris helped us do it for 10 years, and then he died in 2005 in his sleep with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, an undiagnosed heart condition, which is athlete's heart. Anyhow, we ran it for over 25 years. And we gave out hundreds of thousands of dollars in scholarships, as well as we did donate to the Pennsbury Scholarship Foundation in perpetuity, so that every year a student from Pennsbury receives a scholarship from the Pennsbury Scholarship Foundation. Anyhow, Wes wanted to bring it back because Wes is he's kind of a traditional guy for as young as he is. He's a guy with young family, but he likes traditions, and he wants to keep those things instilled in Pennsbury. So he contacted me and asked me if we would be wanting to do it. So we're going to be bringing it back in some capacity in the fall. We have to work through sort of, the details and the minutia about who's doing what, who's handling what. But he would like to bring it back as a alumni game. He has created a newsletter, so he's got a big database of all the basketball players.
Okay.
And he wants to bring back the game, and have a game and have the nighttime event again. So you'll have to stay tuned on that as we
Great.
in the future. But I always enjoyed that community event. I mean, it took time, but
Sure.
it was always a really feel good, bittersweet time. And another reason for my family to get together, which you're always looking for. You're always looking for
I get
a
that.
holiday or a celebration or something to, get everyone together.
All right, well, we'll
absolutely.
stay tuned for that.
Where can listeners find more information about you and your services?
Well, anytime you can call me, reach out to me. My office is in Newtown. It's Remax Properties, right by the neck. Realtors most of the time use their cell number for everything. So you can find me anywhere. You can Google me and you will find me. And I will gladly get back in touch with you with, most likely within minutes, if not seconds.
Okay.
I do have a website. Obviously people reach out to me via email. I'm on social, so I'm not hard to find.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
Awesome.
Okay.
All right. This has been great. Thanks so
Yeah.
much, Amy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice time. I appreciate
Thanks so much, Amy.
We'll talk soon.
For more information on Yardley Wealth Management or Yardley Estate Planning, you could visit our website at yardleywealth.net and yardleyestate.net. You can also follow us on socials at Yardley Wealth Management. This podcast has been produced by Madison and Mike Gary with technical and artistic help from Poe Productions.